Alright, so looking at the sun on 304 angstroms here, we see a bunch of plasma filaments up in the north, a small crown prominence right here, a very interesting place to zoom in on, actually. Check out that zone right there, a small crown prominence near the North Pole coronal hole area. It looks like a splashing of the plasma. And also we see some filaments in the south. Otherwise, very low activity. We see some geomagnetic activity. And before we look at more images of the sun, I'll ask you, have you checked out our movie review? We just reviewed 4 movies. Not really a formal review, kind of a review slash referral. So check that out if you haven't done so. Here's a 193 angstroms view. And things are looking pretty inactive. The North Pole coronal hole is looking pretty gigantic. South Pole coronal hole is looking pretty defined. And there's all kinds of no features. A little bit of activity rising there, but pretty weak activity overall. Let's talk about the grid. Looks like most of California's problems regarding power supply are now over. However, now the fires have kicked up, so lots of places under evacuation. I'm not exactly sure the exact details of that. Please leave a comment. See some power outages in Texas too, according to poweroutage.us. And yes, I had to look, folks. I wasn't just showing you. Now, we did just get a spike here in the solar wind. Looks like a small bit of coronal mass ejection style plasma, as we saw the speed jump all the way up to, I don't know, 500 kilometers per second there. The density went all the way up over 100. We saw a big geomagnetic spike as a result of that. Planet-wide, I can clearly see it's over the 100 line there. The phi angle shifted, the BT/BZ all shifted all at the same time there. That's the kind of thing that you see, folks. There are tidal effects when these coronal mass ejections hit. So, yeah, let's look at some more data here, and I'll show you the magnetosphere movies and so on in just a moment. And here's the latest from ACE, and it's showing a corroboration of that solar wind data. All right, here are the magnetosphere movies. First, we'll look at velocity, and you're going to see a big velocity spike at the end. And it's going to be a fleeting spike, apparently. It looks like it simmered right back down, and amazingly, it was right while we did show prep once again, and it's refreshed. Let me put that back to where it was, to keep these videos as short and dense as possible. And there's that velocity spike right at the end there. Play that again. Looks like a bit of missing data or some sort of a strange anomaly there. Here's the density. Let's see if we notice any issues with the timestamps here. It looks like there was some missing data there. Can't say for sure. In any case, there's the density spike accompanying the velocity spike. And the way it affects the pressure is more than interesting, folks. Here's what the model shows us. We see a very low pressure, practically at the very low end of the measurable portion. And check it out. It's like the magnetosphere was completely depressurized there. So a sudden hit and then a sudden depressurization according to the space weather modeling framework. Let that play a second time. As we see just a small example of what happens with a small coronal mass ejection and a weak magnetosphere. Imagine a big coronal mass ejection on a weak magnetosphere. Anyway, here are the ground magnetic perturbations. We'll just show you the global view here, as this is going to kick up the action. And on Earth, it looks like this hit is coming in at about, oh, I don't know, 7, right around 7 UTC there, it looks like. All right, let's bring that back. And if I could pause, there we go. No, I'm not smashing any computer parts yet. It looks like the majority of those perturbations are actually in the net North Pole. And again, the South Pole is looking creepy in that it's creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. But you can see up north the main delta B is occurring near the net of the fields, not at the Canadian pole or the Siberian pole, but the south one is looking creepy toward the southern Indian Ocean. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back up to 69. I believe I've drawn this 70 line in just so that you can see about where the radial flux is at solar minimum. GOES magnetometer is looking smooth, a little smoother as forecasted. Here's the Gong 2 data. This is an hour and 47 minutes old. And you're looking at the top view ecliptic plane field plot as if you're looking at the sun from above. Stereo A to the left and stereo B to the right. And that GOES magnetometer stability is because we are solidly in this portion of the current sheet. This one charged by the South Pole, the solar polar South Pole field, if that makes sense. There's the GOES electron flux, pretty much what we would expect here. This is probably going to rise up to a slightly higher level at the next noon. And the N's and M's are noon and midnight for the spacecraft, being the GOES 14 and 15 spacecraft measuring it. Relativistic electrons are nothing to really write home about, and the charging hazards are non-existent. X-ray flux is pretty flatlined, in fact, very low levels of X-ray flux. KP is down to 0, and that little sudden hit of plasma there was very fleeting and did not raise the KP index, at least not yet, and we don't expect it to. Here's the F2, or I could say F of F2, or whatever you want to call it, the ionosphere map. And it's looking a little more normal than it did yesterday. And yeah, let's just bring up the latest image and move on. Nothing to write home about there, folks. That one at 7:15. Looking pretty normal. Now, we had some earthquakes come in just before we did show prep. Let's just run down the list. Last 24, we see just about 24 hours ago from making this video, about 23 hours ago, a 4.6 at the northern East Pacific rise. After that, a 5.3 at Japan. That one occurring at 9:21 UT on yesterday, Saturday, October 12th. Next, we see a 4.3 at Indonesia, 4.0 at Alaska. I believe that's an aftershock. 4.5 at Indonesia is next on the list, followed by a 4.9, a little bit to the east of that last one. 4.6 at China, right on the coast. 4.5 at the Philippines. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from the Philippines and or you felt a quake in the past 24. 4.6 in Indonesia. 4.6 at Congo. Located northeast of the African Rift Zone. Check that one out. Let's do a zoom in. And there's a location of that near the Burundi-Tanzania borders, south of the Mitumbar Mountains. And we'll zoom out. Please leave a comment if you think Africa is splitting in half and running away from itself, kidnapping Somalia. And let's get back to the list, as there's a lot of quakes, but none in the 6 magnitude range. The earthquake drought continues, folks, and it's weird. It's weird. A 4.9 at Papua New Guinea is the next on the list, followed by a 4.4 at Russia. No deep quakes reported until now. This 4.2 at Peru. Heads up western South America for a large quake. 4.4 at El Salvador. Next is a 4.5 at the Fiji Islands. That one south of the islands, as well as south of Tonga. Followed by a 4.8 That one's closer to Fiji than Tonga, I think, but I really don't have any idea. 4.7 at Mexico. And these last two quakes, the last two largest ones of the past 24, came in while we did show prep here. 5.5 at the South Sandwich Islands. This one way down toward Antarctica. And a 5.1 in the northern Mariana Islands. Not to be confused with marinara sauce. Let's talk about air sauce. There's the air pressure. And we'll just let that advance. Looks like a low pressure system developing there just east of the Andes in central South America. Looks like it's sitting still. Could be a risk factor for earthquakes. Anyway, there's where things will be 24 hours from making this video. As the low in the northern U.S. moves up into Canada north of the Great Lakes. And for that, I'm sure some folks are going to be thanking you. Volcano rundown includes Abico, producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. Mount Aso, 5,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima exploded and produced a 9,000-foot ash plume. Krakatoa back on the list. Krakatoa! Spooky volcano there. That thing's created real estate and destroyed some real estate this year. It killed some people. And created a tsunami. That one erupted to 2,000 feet. I wouldn't stand in the shadow of that thing. Semaru exploding, producing a 13,000-foot plume. Dacono, continuous emissions there. Popocatépetl exploding, 19,000-foot plume there. Sabancaya, intermittent emission, 20,000-foot volcanic ash plume and explosions. Copihu, weak emissions. And Nevado State Chilean. Please don't pole vault it as it's still producing intermittent weak emissions of volcanic ash. The Hunter's Moon is coming, folks. And it's coming at 5:07 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's a 99.5% waxing gibbous when I made this video. Where will you be when the moon is full? Please leave a comment. Here's where stuff is in the solar system, Milky Way galaxy team. And here's where stuff will be in 1 week. On the 20th. Here's where stuff is above my head. Actually, let's refresh. I think we've got old data, folks. Oh my gosh, it's 3:24. The moon is on its way to setting. Today's featured star is the tail of the swan, Deneb, otherwise known as Cygnus X3, a blue supergiant, a Wolf-Rayet star, orbited by a massive object. Now, Cygnus X3 is a high-mass X-ray binary. If you want to follow its transient behavior, well, we've got links to that below the video. So there's that. There's the current graph. It looks like we just had some dense transients in the past couple of days. And we are up toward the top of this thing's chart. One of my favorite choices for a possible point source of cosmic ray flux, as it's definitely coming out of Cygnus, and that 4.83 hour periodicity is a kind of a dead giveaway, if you know what I'm saying, folks. Please leave a comment if you have any idea what I'm talking about. Lightningmaps.org is showing us a bunch of lightning out in the Atlantic and so on, as well as around Central America. And let's see what the snow scenario is. Here we are on the Weather Underground Doppler radar, and this is like excessive here. That these bands of snow are not going to leave. So if you're in those areas, the snow is going to continue to fall because of the way this pattern is, and we'll show you that in a moment on the water vapor map. Those bands of snow there, those are just training, and they're going to stay there, and you'll see why in a moment. And there you have it. That is not a wheel of fun for folks with frigid air, and I don't mean the refrigerator, coming out of Canada, swirling around, probably ice forming on Lake Superior already on the western portion, as that air is exceedingly cold, and the jet stream is going to continue to inject ultra cold air. And these dry areas, well, let me zoom in on that. As these dry areas are going to just continue to hold this moist air in place, And that's why that storm's going to train. It's going to linger for an extended period here, as there is not a lot of mass to push that out of the way. So we're not expecting the snow to even stop until tomorrow morning, around midnight tonight. And I just moved the map over a little bit to the east there to show you this insane convection going on here in the dry air, as well as this powerful low pressure system moving over Lake Superior. There is a little bit of dry air mixed in there, which is a good thing. And let's go look at the jet stream. Going to have to do a close-up of that one because that's looking funky. There's the jet stream in that area. That is a powerful low, folks. You see how circular that is? That is no joke. Talk about a counterclockwise rotation. Anyway, here's the rest of the Western world's jets. And we've got extreme meridional jet stream flow. It's going to be very cold off the coast of places like Scotland with that kind of flow. Look at these lows up here. That is some funky weather, folks. And let's look at the eastern jets and then move on and not freak out or hand ring or pearl clutch. Please leave a comment if you'd like us to pearl clutch. I don't have my pearl necklace on right now, but you can probably find that. This is pretty annoying. I got to get rid of these ear things. There we go. That's better. All right, cheers. And now it's time for the That Is Censored and That Is a Sinkhole, where we talk about whatever we want to. Let's talk about a great music video by Bat for Lashes called What's a Girl to Do? It's kind of spooky. It's sort of like it puts you in it's proper Halloween style video. So check it out. It's not on YouTube, and you'll probably be happy for that. We'll play less than 8 seconds of it, and we won't get any kind of infringement. When you watch the video, you will like the song. It's a very psychedelic band. If you don't like psychedelic music, you'll probably hate the band, but it's still a cool song and video, so check it out. Let's talk about the rise and fall of social media platforms. Well, are you aware of the current state of affairs? The global rank is as follows. Facebook #1, followed by Instagram, another Facebook property, followed by Qzone, which is the largest social media of China, owned by Tencent. And then next is Weibo, owned by Sinacorp, and then TikTok, owned by ByteDance. And I never heard of any of those 6 organizations, followed by Twitter, Pinterest, yada, yada, yada. Check out this video. We've linked to the Zero Hedge article here. But this video is just fantastic. Shout out to Data is Beautiful. What a great video. Just play a little image here, like a couple seconds toward the end. And once again, not get banned or copyright infringement against us because we're playing less than 8 seconds and providing ample commentary. So let's hit play. So anyway, there you can see it's a fantastic video. It goes all the way back to 2003, I think, where they're talking about MySpace. You know, MySpace was the original social media, really, when Friendster, I guess, was before that, and then MySpace upended that, and then Facebook bought MySpace, and so on and so forth. So read the article if you're interested in these organizations. We wouldn't cover it, but we're subject to it as we're trying to get these videos out through YouTube, which presents the occasional, or let's just say the constant obstacle. And again, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. Thanks, patrons. And please check out patreon.com/smAsho. We still have a $1 level, but not for long, because we're going to scare the heck out of you for Halloween and get rid of that level entirely, allegedly. So check out patreon.com/smAsho, the true source of the funding of this channel. And thanks again, associate producers who are patrons. I promise we will have a credit crawl. And yes, I may smash a computer and recreate the scene for $50, and we'll see what's going on. St. Louis Arch. We'll stay in contact. Don't send an email because that'll constitute a legal contract. And thanks, Smash Team, for viewing. Stay tuned for the bonus feature, which is, indeed, the local yellow dwarf at 171 angstroms. First, the top view. Not a lot of activity occurring. And here's the southern area. We are out of here, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Please share on your social media. And have a delightful Sunday. And remember, when you're staring at the sun, remember not to drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.